Hey guys, I hope you are doing well. Happy Wednesday. So, today we're going to be talking about quantum jump. We're going to be talking about the role of quantum physics and mechanics in spellwork and magic. It's a complex topic, and this is why I rarely talk about it because you do need to know you need to have some basic knowledge of quantum physics and quantum mechanics. As you know, both of these are sciences. Sciences? That might be wrong. English, again, not my first language. And these things are proven. We're gonna discuss it today. The reason why we are discussing it is because one of you has noticed the quantum jump and has asked me about it. So I thought I would just share it with everybody. It's very interesting, so keep listening. The first thing I'm gonna say is that, as you guys know, a lot of my magic is based on science. I'm very transparent about magic being energy work because that's what it is. It's nothing, like people perceive it. I really want to make that clear. I'm absolutely aware that a lot of people have the wrong idea about it. I'm not trying to change anybody's idea. I'm perfectly fine with people having their own opinions, their own free will. This is for my clients so they can understand things better and why we do certain things and why it's so important to do vibrational work and follow the instructions. And maybe it's gonna make more sense after we explain all of this stuff, okay? So I'm gonna try to explain it in a very simple way. Let's hope you're gonna understand it and I'm gonna do it right, because I don't wanna bore you with, just some expressions, because they basically say nothing if you don't know the basics. So I'm really going to try to explain it as simple as I can. Okay, so let's start the audio. So the first thing we're going to talk about are some things that you already know. So you kind of know, I've explained it, that when I do spell work, it's basically energy work. So energy work does not require materials necessarily. The reason why I use materials, especially when I do work for somebody else, is because it's like a symbolic act. It kind of goes along with that energy. It's symbolic. But if you take a candle and you write something on a piece of paper and you add some herbs and spices, that is not a spell. And that is not going to do anything. Just by lighting a candle and, having a little process that you have found online, it's not a spell, it's not magic. And then you can try it and say, oh, magic doesn't work. Well, that's not magic. That's lighting a candle and writing something on a piece of paper and then sprinkling some herbs on the candles or whatever. It's not energy work, right? You haven't connected with energies, you haven't done the energy work. So that's important to mention. Energy work is not necessarily spell work. Energy work is a broad spectrum, and you can see things that we call spells in different places. Let's say religions, they light candles, they pray, and they are putting some energy in it, some of them, and then they get their wishes, right, if possible. So they haven't done a spell necessarily, right? So spell work or magic is energy work. Energy work is not just spell work, obviously. But what we do when we do spells is we basically work with energies. So what I'm doing is I'm connecting with your energy, with the energy of your person, and I'm trying to join you together. Now, what I'm doing in the process is a couple of things. As you know, pushes, I give your target pushes. We talked about what this is about. So they're going to think about you, dream about you, daydream about you, think about you. I said that, didn't I? Miss you. I meant to say miss you. And it's all a very pleasant experience. Nothing is forceful, and they will not realize that they are under a spell. It's all very natural. I've talked about it last week or this week, so you probably heard that, so I'm not gonna get into how the target feels. I think that was last week. Anyways, now the pushes, they will depend on a couple of things. So which spell you use, and also how many spells you use, the more pushes they're gonna get. But the main thing that pushes will depend on is the energy bond between you and the target. And this is the main reason why spells sometimes don't work. And another reason is because your person has free will, and even though they're getting the pushes, they simply don't want to. But another reason is that the energy bond may be so weak that the person will get very little pushes. So obviously they will not be able to push them to do something, or maybe no pushes at all if the energy bond is like very, very weak or even gone. What is the energy bond? We talked about this recently as well, but I'm going to repeat. Energy bond is something that is created when you connect with a person in some way. It doesn't have to be love. It can be sexual intercourse. It can be only lust or passion. You don't even have to have an intercourse, but you are really lusting over each other. It can be just talking with somebody online. You don't even have to see the person to create the energy bond. So it's not how people perceive it only if there is feelings. There can also be passion. There can also be other things. It doesn't have to be love feelings. But that is how energy bonds are created. And then over time, energy bonds, in the majority of the cases, will weaken. So this is why it's very important that your breakup was not long ago. Because if it's been like years and years and years, I will not take you as a client. I will not recommend spell work. I can do a reading and see if there's any chance, but usually there will not be. And the reason why is because it's pointless, because the energy bond is so weak that the pushes will not be strong enough. And potentially it can work if you do a lot of spells and give it a lot of time, which I don't think is ideal, obviously, to do. And even then it may not work. So this is why it's not recommended to do it in that case. It potentially can work, but the chances are very low. So what I'm trying to say is that the success of your spell work does depend on several factors. One is your target, and by your target, I do mean how stubborn they are and their free will, but I also mean the energy bond. If it's not weak, because then the pushes will be stronger, and that is great, right? And you're going to need less work, and you're going to have higher chances, and all of that. They're going to depend on your vibration, which we're going to get into later, and this is where the quantum jump thing happens. And it's also going to depend on the situation, the severity of the situation, obviously. Now, so the spells give pushes to your target, and we are talking about love spells clearly when we have a target. It's a different story about other spells, but this is the most popular spell, so this is what we're talking about. The other spells have much higher chance of working because there is not a free will involved for somebody else. So we're not going to be talking about them. Anyways, where was I? Okay, so another thing that I'm going to be doing is trying to create a situation in which the two of you can kind of reconcile, whether it's, running into them somewhere or just a spontaneous situation where it can kind of happen. But the most important thing is the pushes, because even if the situation arrives, they will need to be prepared and they will need to kind of be under the pushes. So they're actually gonna do what we want them to do, right? So that's that. Now let's get into the quantum stuff. So I'm gonna try to explain it like this. You have probably heard about parallel realities, and it's pretty much proven. Not entirely, but pretty much. And a lot of people think it's a thing, and I think it could be a thing. I'm not claiming anything, of course, because there's so many things we don't know and we will probably never know. And that's okay. That's something we need to accept, right? We can't know everything. And like the point is that we don't actually. So I don't know if you had this book when you were kids, but I did. I think it was called Choose Your Adventure, I think. Anyways, in that book, you were choosing what you're gonna do next, and based on that, you were supposed to turn to page 6 or page 20 because whatever you chose brought you in a different path, on a different path, and different things happened. So this is kind of how parallel realities work. So when we think about parallel realities, we think about something very abstract, don't we? Like something really weird and something just crazy and something totally different. Just like when we think about magic, it's kind of like that. But actually, they're quite simple and natural to explain. So, for example, when you decide what you're going to study, let's say you studied law and you finished law school, but you were also thinking about studying medicine. So if you decided to study medicine, clearly you would be maybe in a different town or city or country, but you would definitely be meeting different people. You would be surrounded with different stuff. You would later get a job in a hospital and not in a law office, where you would again work with different people and meet different people, and like your life would be different or your reality would be different, right? So it's kind of like we're doing it all the time, right? When we choose to do something and don't choose something else, we have free will, right? We are kind of changing stuff and picking different things. So that is how it works. I hope it makes sense. It's actually quite simple. So now to get back to our spell work and our vibrational work, should I say. So here's the thing. You know how I tell you that you need to work on yourself? And I think yesterday I did the audio, I think it's called Fixing Problems, where basically I was talking about if you have stayed with your ex, if you were currently still with your ex, then clearly that issue why you broke up would have to disappear. So you would have to fix that issue, whether it's your attachment style or something else. So for the relationship to continue in a quantum field, that issue needs to disappear. So this is why you need to work on yourself and on the issues that you had so that you could get that quantum jump, basically, if that makes sense. So your spell can do that quantum jump for you, because it is kind of a quantum jump, although, you kind of, the problem is that people kind of think of it, oh, that means that I'm entering something else and now I don't remember what happened before because this is completely different. No, that's not how it works. So basically, for you to be in the right vibration, you need to vibrationally, energetically be at the point where you would be if this breakup hasn't happened or if you got back together. So if you had this person, you wouldn't feel miserable and sad because of the breakup. You wouldn't be crying and you wouldn't be lacking somebody, and you wouldn't be in victim mentality. It doesn't mean that you would be super happy, because being in a relationship doesn't necessarily mean, oh, I'm so happy. It just means that you wouldn't have that victim mentality. You wouldn't have that feeling of lack, which basically means you need to feel complete, and you can feel complete just on your own and should always. So that is kind of what I wanted to explain. I wanted to do it better, but of course I don't know how. I hope you kind of get what I mean and realize what I mean. So if you haven't listened to that audio, I think I made it yesterday, please do. It's very educational. And basically, that is what happens. If you have any questions about this, please let me know. If somebody didn't understand it, I will try to explain it better, but I guess this is the best I can do. I wanted to explain further, but I was just kind of like, okay, I'm done. And I'm not gonna force it. So yeah. Anyways, I hope this helped. Bye.